Yeah, so sorry, we just want to make sure that Zoom and those that are on Zoom, and then, of course, the recording is on. So we are now going on. So Erica, if you could
Yeah, for sure.
continue, thanks.
Okay, so I was asking you about dates on the calendar of the exhibit that we are supposed to be using to make our decision this evening. There's one date listed on here, I think. Now I'm even, the 8/25/2023 is supposed to be due. But besides, half of this month, first half of this month, second half of this month, there's nothing that corresponds to each of these items on the left. There's nothing for us to keep you accountable to.
Well, the software, you can print the information on the left by itself, or you can print the bar chart that goes with it, which does have date references to it. But, so I don't know what version may have gotten distributed. We can publish it. I had some software problems in prepping this, and some dates did fall off, but you do have the bar chart, what they call the Gantt chart, to give you the date references for the durations.
But this is for our vote to give you an extension for a year tonight. Why wasn't there a second page to provide those dates?
Well, again, there are dates here that correspond with the end of August timeframe of 24.
They're only bars.
And if you've got it on an
what?
8.5, if
They're
you've got
only
the full
bars.
Oh,
schedule.
there's dates up.
But
Oh,
those
yeah.
are,
Yeah, rough dates.
that's very rough. For us to want to be able to, like, take this document in the future, we want dates.
Again, you can see second half.
I'm not going to belabor it.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are
but-
date references on there. I did want to, I'm sorry, I will, happy to speak more to the schedule. I did just want to speak to a point that came up during the break that was asked a couple times. To our knowledge, none of the trustees are buyers within our project. Just to clarify that didn't get asked through the questions so far. So wanted to clarify that. But anyway, happy to get back to the schedule.
Okay, so it was in our packet somewhere that you provided the village with some information that you knew you weren't going to be able to get to the August 2nd date with finishing the project, correct?
I'm not sure.
2023.
2023.
I'm just not clear on what you're asking.
Repeat the.
So at some point, you knew with this permit that you weren't going to be able to finish the project by the deadline
By of this year, right?
of this year?
Correct.
Okay. When was that? When did you let the village know?
I believe we were in contact shortly before that deadline came into anticipation of working something out with the village as an extension. I think plain also within that is that the agreement with the village allowed for the strike to be a reason for at least a short-term extension, which I think we're currently operating under, and then we were seeking the full year extension of the project per the schedule that was published.
Okay, so there was an article in the Wednesday Journal that around April of this year, you knew you weren't going to be able to complete this project, quoted by Sedgwick.
Yeah, I mean, it was a few months before the August deadline.
Okay. Why, if you knew it then, why weren't you providing more information, again, to the public on understanding that that was going to happen?
I believe we were communicating with the village. We were trying to work through things with the lender. Weren't really sure what the result of that's going to be. We're still working through that. So, just hard to give answers when you're in the midst of trying to work through some critical pieces such as financing.
Okay. I guess for the village then, when was the first time he let us know that he wasn't going to be able to make it by this permit date?
Is that in July? The day that he?
I'm trying to remember, we had, the village had received a schedule, a brief bullet point schedule that indicated that the August 2024 would be the completion date. I believe that was It was during the winter months.
No, I think
No,
or
what she
she's
was asking
asking
is, when did we know, the village know?
that the
date-
current
Let me,
permit,
that the date was not gonna be met August 3rd, 2023.
Well, as early as last August and September, village staff was concerned about the lack of progress on the site and had inquired as to reminder of the deadline that would be coming up next year. When we knew that for certain, we had received a schedule that referenced August 2024, sometime during the winter. I don't remember the specific month. I guess we weren't exactly sure, probably until the spring or after.
Okay,
Winter.
so the village had some idea in December, and around springtime, we had a little bit more confirmation of that.
I guess, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Erica, because I'm a little confused. What I think your question was, the last permit that expired on
Yeah.
August the 2nd of this month, when did we or when did they notify the
Tell us,
village
right.
that they were not going to meet that? That was your question, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
So, yeah,
So,
no,
so, right.
so I'm gonna, I think, go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, so my understanding was that the developer, through its attorney, had sent a notice that it would likely need an extended completion date back in the fall of 2022. But it wasn't it wasn't final, and Greg Smith at that time, who was covering the village work day to day, sent a letter basically saying that would be a breach of the RDA. And when I took over regular day-to-day meetings with the village, one of my tasks was to put as much flesh on that as possible. And we were not really able to get that kind of detail until the discussions centered around a resolution. I mean, it started as a possible resolution of the outstanding administrative fine that was imposed. That's not finalized, just so the public knows. The developer took that up on administrative review, and it's pending, but there was a proposal to possibly settle that. And the village administration said, well, that's really not the major issue, the fine money. It's getting this project done in a timely manner. If you want to talk about deadlines, we'll talk about a global settlement. And then the discussion started, which ultimately led, after many delays back and forth, to tonight. Does that answer your question?
That does, thank you.
I might also add that we had a meeting with the village. Was that April or May when we?
It was May 12th.
May 12th.
And that was the first, that was when the attorney, Marty, on the administrative review got back to us after talking to you and said, you are interested in seeing whether we can come to some kind of a schedule the village could live with that would complete this. And again, recommended. Obviously, we don't speak for the board. And so we said we wanted to meet, and we had the agreement here at the village with Matt and all your representatives, and George Spathis was on the phone, and everybody was here. And there was it started out with a construction schedule that Mr. McKinney handed us, and that was a schedule that had that August 2024 date. Because there was litigation pending, it allowed us to engage in some discussion in closed session, and so we were able to determine whether there was even a hint of a majority of the board being interested in a schedule like that. Obviously, no agreement was there, nothing binding, but we were able to at least move forward with our negotiations.
So I might just add that I would think in April, before the May meeting, is when we started having serious discussion related to the permit coming up and some of the other issues we were working through.
Yes.
And I recall making note of the meeting we had with Wednesday Journal right around that same time.
Right. Yeah, well, the first lawsuit was filed at the end of March.
That's how we knew.
That was on the note. And then the foreclosure action followed in May.
So the documents that we have in front of us,
Finished, Eric?
I am,
Yes, okay.
yeah.
obligate you to pay your property taxes that are in arrears from 2021, 2022 by September 15th. And this is not the first time that the property taxes on this piece of property have been in arrears. You were in arrears back in 2019. And at that time, the village held back giving you $161,629 until those tax issues were resolved. So it seems like it's a pattern. And everyone in this room has to pay property taxes, and we have to pay them on time. I'm concerned that if this board agrees to give you this extension tonight, it's just, the pattern's just gonna continue, and that you're going to continue to be in arrears in your taxes, and that the fines and violations of ordinances are gonna continue, and we're gonna continue to have to chase after you for them. So for at least the taxes, are you willing to put an estimate of what taxes are gonna be due on this property in this next year, up until August 2024 in escrow, so that the village has those taxes if you don't pay them, and if you do pay them, then you get that money back?
The current construction escrow has about $100,000 budget left for taxes, so that's about 4 years at $25,000 a year in taxes. So it's not a problem. It's a verifiable escrow amount that was part of the whole construction budget.
So why aren't you paying them on time?
The bank hasn't funded the loan since November. So all the equity goes
Can you
in the
just
deal up
start that
front,
again?
just like when you buy a house, all your equity goes in up front, and then you rely on the bank to fund their construction commitment. So this project hasn't been funded since November of 2022. All these tax bills are subsequent to that, are all in approved pay apps, ready to be funded upon the funding of the draw. And I just recently looked, I believe there's $73,000 left in the construction loan related to the tax escrow. So there's about 3 years of taxes left out.
And that's the reason why you're not paying your taxes on time?
Basically, nothing's been funded on the project since the last pay app to fund was November of 2022.
Okay. So also, when I incur a fine, like if I leave my car parked outside on the street overnight, I get a ticket, I gotta pay that ticket. You guys got a fine of $36,000 for a sign violation, and we have a document in front of us tonight that we're being asked to approve that says that, to summarize it, the village is willing to cut that fine down to $2,000 for you, even though you incurred that fine. But if you don't meet the deadline in this agreement, if you don't meet the August 2024 deadline and you request another extension, then you got to pay it in full. So why don't you escrow that too? Are you willing to?
Again, the deadline is 9/15, and
Yeah, those funds are not currently held in escrow, but that is part of what the agreement is as it's written right now. Not that there'll be an escrow that will be liable for them if we don't finish the construction.
Right, would you be willing to put the $34K in escrow? Because then we'll have it and we won't have to chase after you for it?
Well, we spent a lot of time negotiating this agreement with people that were responsible to negotiate from the village. So our opinion is we've negotiated in good faith and come to the agreement that's on the table.
Okay, please.
I'll just say,
Okay.
in that agreement, the village cuts your $36K fine down to $2K, and the consideration for that is you showing up at the meetings. I don't think that's meaningful consideration.
Right. All right. Okay. Anything else, Katie? Yeah, because I've got a few.
Something that's just been important to me through this whole thing is it was stated at some time during our meeting that you were going to have your goal or expectation was to have the building closed up so that you can work internally for an extended period of time through the winter. When do you expect to have the building, granted, you meet the deadline day, but when would you have it closed up? Because obviously the winter season is coming, so you can't work. That could be an excuse to not work. So, is there an expectation now? It was the end of the year, the last I heard, but what is your expectation on that?
Well, the loan situation that certainly hasn't helped, but I think within the first quarter of next year, to meet the August deadline, we'd have to be getting very, having that enclosure in place.
Okay. Any further questions, Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have a few. And just again, just stating it for everybody here, like, why did your previous, financial institution pull out?
We're trying to understand that. They've not been very forthright in their communications, to be candid, and it could have very much been a byproduct of the regional bank issue that ran through the country. But we don't know. They just stopped funding. They've issued the documents, legal documents they have, but have not communicated otherwise.
Okay. And you stated that you've had 35 contracts right now. You have 15. You're hoping to have 17. Do you expect those 17, well, 15 plus 2 when they're done, to wait?
Well, just to clarify, if you took all the contracts we've had over time, they've been in the 35 range. We only have
Right.
22 units now, sitting here with up to 17 contracts. We've been very fortunate when we have lost a contract. The market has been strong enough that we've seen that contract get filled in very successfully so far. We have a very good sales team, and the project stands for itself. So. If we were to lose some more, we do anticipate the project would support seeing those sales come back relatively quickly.
Just to frame that a little bit, we're seeing a velocity of about a contract a month. We've sat around 16 to, I think we went as high as 19 at one point with a combined unit. Over the last 8 months, we've probably taken plus or minus of 8 contracts. We've probably lost 5 or 6. Timing doesn't always work for people. People have life changes. So what we've seen is just a continued validation of the concept in terms of buyers coming in, and sometimes the timing of the project hasn't worked for other buyers that have had to, that the timing just doesn't work anymore for.
And can you just explain, I guess, briefly the River North project specifically? I know, like how tall is it? How long did it take? What's the occupancy down there?
Yeah, was referred to as the Roan project earlier, downtown in River North. It is a 14-story building, 31 units. We had marketed that as a condo building in some respects relatively similar to the River Forest project, and there was single-level living, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, direct elevator access, in-building parking, and a lot of outdoor space, just an urban version of the Lake and Lathrop project. But for a variety of reasons, we recently transitioned that from condo to apartment, and it's been very well received. We've got up to 9 units that are in various stages of either people living in the building and or being negotiated. So call that approaching a third of the property, and we've only been doing that for a few months. So it's like I said, it's been very well received as a for lease.
So
property.
you now have occupancy and you're trying to fill it.
Right.
Okay. And how long did it take? How long was the construction? Because I keep hearing it was extended, so I was just.
It had its share of delays. It more had the teeth of its construction, where we talked about the remediation process on this project being affected by COVID. That project was in the teeth of trying to make progress through the teeth of COVID. So we definitely lost and had some time impacts on that. So it's been a 4 or 5 year project.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I've got a few. Yeah, this has been a long, winding road for us, and I want to remind both the residents and the trustees, we would not even be here in this discussion but for the contamination and the health and safety of our residents. There's no reason the village would have participated in the purchase of the building at all. I mean, the TIF money was already kind of ready to go and expired in 2010. At that time, the village board decided that that contamination was bigger and more problematic for our residents than we even thought. So, but for that contamination, we shouldn't even be talking about this. This should be a complete private development without any village help. But I guarantee you, the village trustees at that time knew about the contamination. We had a report, and we continue to get a report from people, from environmental companies that we asked for to do borings. And we knew, without a doubt, that the perk, which is a contaminant from the dry cleaners, were moving toward Lake and Lathrop corner and into our public works system. And we knew that if we did nothing, that our public works department could be exposed, and we knew that our residents would be exposed to the airborne contaminants. So that's why we're here. Otherwise, this thing should have been developed long time ago. But there was a lot of factors that went into where we're at today. That doesn't explain this last 18 months. It only explains, to me, up to 2022. So here we are, 2023, and my questioning is more in the line of Trustee Vasquez, is that you agreed to this development agreement, and you put 915 in there, and we expect 915. So I'll address the residents. If 915 doesn't happen, chances are there won't be another extension, right? And so what happens after that? I think that was a question. Well, everyone says go get another developer. And I just want to make sure we explain that. That is not that easy. It's nice to say, but it's not that easy because of the clawback provision that we talked about and the lender needing to have the first right of to the property. Otherwise, you're never going to get a construction loan of any kind. So right now, we still have our rights. If for any reason this doesn't come to be, we will work out with Wintrust, and we will work out as they go through their foreclosure with Sedgwick. We will work with with Wintrust to find out that process. It's not going to be an easy process, and it's going to be a long process. But we'll work with them to find out what it means to get that piece of property with another developer. But I want to set expectations. It's not something easy. The developer currently is invested at $4.2 million. I think Margie mentioned that. $4.2 million doesn't go away. Okay, it doesn't go away. Bank doesn't say, okay, we'll eat it all. They're going to find whatever piece they need, and either we, the village, can negotiate it, or we, the village, with another developer, can negotiate. But it's a process, and I want to be honest with you because we keep hearing, oh, transparency. I don't know what we've done that not give you more information that we can legally give you at the time that we could legally give you. And I want to answer directly. I am no way invested in this project, either personally or family-wise or any-wise. This project I think is a good one. I'm not going to disagree that it was a good one when we started the discussion, but it has trouble. And so that's the point I want to make to the residents is that, we will stay the course, but it will be time and money. And it would have been time and money anyway, okay? Somebody had to clean the property up again. But for the contamination, we would never have this conversation. So several, $3 million to $4 million went into the actual cleanup And that includes the actual remediation, obviously all the soft costs that go with it. So that doesn't go away. And either we step in and we do something with it, or we find another developer through Wintrust, which will take time and energy. And it may or may not look like what it looks today. It may not be 22 units. It may be something different. Yeah, but it might be something you don't want. So we know what the community likes, and so we'll work very hard on your behalf to find the right fit, but it's not gonna be easy. And I don't want anybody around this table to think it's gonna be easy, but it's the truth. So my question to you all is that you've heard the residents say the site is in disarray. The site needs to be cleaned up. Better fencing, obviously Ashland Avenue, and I've heard you say, Mark, you're gonna address it. And I've heard it, but it's gotta be addressed. And if you don't do it, I am positive we will do it and you will pay. That I will tell you. And you could take that maybe to your bank. But we are not gonna allow our residents to walk around that plywood. It's not gonna happen unless you've got trucks going back and forth, and then we'll discuss it. But my point is that we need to address the appearance. So I'm not asking you to address it anymore. You've already talked about it. We're saying you gotta do it. So the two questions and points that I'm gonna make, in my mind, 915 gives you an opportunity, basically to get new lending and do what you need to do and get it right. If it's 916, it doesn't work, in my mind, in my vote. That's what I would say to you. And if we can't be responsible to the site and to the residents, then we will have conversations with you. Let's say you come at 915 and you do have your funding. Great. But we will have meetings with you and the lender to ensure that we are on target. And not only is it going to be required meetings, it will be agonizing meetings if we don't get to where we need to be. And that's a fact. So that's not a threat, it's a fact. So I just want to make sure, one, the residents understand the situation, because there's a lot of talk about doing a lot of things and why do we give up the clawback? I mean, I don't want to address it because it's really economics. It's economics. How much do we want to invest in a piece of property that was contaminated? And we don't want to invest in that. And that was a decision the board made very many years ago, that we didn't want to be in the chain of title because we become liable for any other health issues that come out of that contamination. So we made a conscious decision to not be in the chain of title and to get a responsible developer to remediate. We got there in my mind. And that happened in 2021 with the no further remediation. And that, to me, is very important for our residents, because other than that, all we're doing is breathing that perk. So you want to respond to that or you don't? But that is my issues, is that 915's it. And if you're successful, which I hope you are, I'm rooting for you, but I'm also saying it ain't going to be easy, because we're going to get to that August 24 date.
Well, I just simply say, I understand what you're saying. We've heard what you said.
Can I make a comment to that,
Yep.
Kathy? So I think you mentioned that you wanted to be sure that we understood that as as the board here. I think that's something that we have all been wrestling with, not just for this time, but like with every single vote that we do. It's something we are trying to outweigh the good versus the bad with this development, and try to make something good for the residents of the village of River Forest happen. And it hurts every time I vote yes to this, and nothing materializes.
There's consequences to that, so we'll leave that.
Concerned because at least twice, Katie, once with me and Tom here, and then once with you and me asking these questions, you've said, that's it. Like, if we have, if they don't follow this, that's it. That's the end, and we go on. This is at least the third time that that's happened, right? And I mean, what you just said right now to Kathy, I understand what you mean. Like, I get it. That was maybe verbatim, the exact same comment that you made to us the last time we were here doing this. It's very difficult to give you, for 2 weeks, to give you a year extension where we don't have any, we don't have anything that says that you're gonna do what you're saying you're gonna do.
Yeah. All right. So we're, I think, unless there's another trustee's comment or question. And
I just want to be clear
Yep,
that in
go ahead.
terms of the time period with which, because I know we keep going back to 2010, and this is more for everybody in the room here, right? It is that basically they could start, the earliest you guys could have started construction.
It's 2022. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
earliest because it was contaminated. Yes.
Just said 2022.
I mean, yeah, the permit of February 2022. That was the first time they could actually
Yes,
construct
that's-
on the land, which was cleaned. Prior to that, it was
They couldn't
dirty.
do it,
They
correct?
couldn't do it. It was under remediation. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, here you, like I said,
Actually, you know what, working with the EPA to get clean, my sister
at
actually
COVID.
works, it's not easy, is with the government, and I'm not defending anything, I'm just trying to make sure that we have facts, and there's a lot of emotion, but October 22 was the earliest we could start.
Yeah, so the one thing I would say for the public, just from experience, is during the lockdowns, the Cook County and the state of Illinois, for probably different reasons, almost completely shut down. Cook County, during about over a year period, did not record one document that you would try to record. They just piled up. And the state agencies, a lot of them didn't do anything, and the IEPA didn't issue any NFR letters for over a year. They just stopped. It was considered not essential, and so things got backed up. So I can say that.
Yeah, thank you.
I understand that, but also he didn't come here to.
I'm just.
Yeah,
Agree.
I mean,
that context to what
okay, so any further questions for, go ahead,
I
Rez.
just have one, I have one comment. First of all, I will also, for the resident to ask the 3 questions, no, I don't have a contract in purchasing a property in this building. Also, I don't have family members who are doing that, and I also have not invested in this project. I think I got all the questions, and family members have not invested in it. So I have no interest in that, or appearance of any impropriety in that respect. The other thing I do want to apologize to Trustee Johnson. I think I misspoke when I was referring to the 18 months. I was referring to the time we last had the permit, and I think I may have misspoken saying that Trustee Johnson was only here for 18 months. It's been 2 years, so I apologize for that. It's been 2 years for that, and still in this 2-year period. But I guess the other thing I'm not going to rehash everything that Kathy Ducey had mentioned about the remediation, because that's a big thing in terms of that. In other projects where I had to work with, not as a personal level, but working with public bodies, when we have had those scenarios where we had to deal with the EPA, and even as a government entity, that can potential liability in terms of remediating properties like that. You don't know until you start digging into the land what can come out of it. So that was, I guess, from what I look at that's a plus, that we got out of it in terms of the title, getting out of the title of that property and giving up the clawback provision for that, so that 2 reasons: not only the liability potential to us, but also the bank wouldn't fund it if they didn't have the title. It's like when you buy a house, the first thing in the collateral is the bank wants the title to the property as their collateral. That's what happened here too in terms of the clawback. I just wanted to be clear with that. In terms of the alternative, in terms of another resident who asked, well, what are the legal issues, if there are legal issues, and why would you do that? Well, I think the reason this agreement it's a good possibility is it actually defines some of the amounts, it actually defines some of the other conditions that we probably, if we don't have this, it would, I'm not saying I'm scared of that, but it wouldn't clarify the amounts that we are agreeing as we negotiated in terms of what the permit fees are, and for now, as well as outstanding taxes that they're going to pay it up to now. And I appreciate your comment on the escrow. I'm not saying that's not a valid point. It's a valid point. But what I'm saying is there are conditions here that we potentially could have, if the board approves, that would clarify so if we end up going with litigation. And I'm not saying we as a us, I'm talking about the bank. 9/15 is the deadline. The way I see it is if they don't get their financing on 9/15, it's going to address a lot of the issues that came up regarding mechanics lanes, regarding properties. I mean, the new bank is going to pay attention to a lot of what's happening here. Again, let me be very clear. I am not excusing what everybody has said here in terms of what's happening. I totally understand that. I'm not happy with it either. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at what's another scenario, because again, if we don't pursue this and giving another extension, and up to 9/15, that's what I'm looking at, then you have all this other litigation with the banks that's going to come out there. So we won't be able to, the question that was asked, why don't we find another developer? You're not going to find one. Who's going to buy a property that's in litigation between banks and et cetera? It's not going to happen. And let me tell you, as a lawyer for litigation and construction, that we're looking at 2 years before you even get a possible resolution generally, especially in Cook County. And so this is going to be a while if we end up doing that. Now, I'm not saying if we end up in that position, we'll deal with it. But at this point, what's the possibility of not waiting until September the 15th to see if something happens? And if it doesn't, and I'm telling you that these are strong conditions for them to meet and even get a lender by 9/15. Otherwise, it's probably not going to happen. And we're going to end up dealing with this project in so many different ways. Again, not that we would encourage litigation, but I think it's going to, the banks are going to end up in litigation too with our group here, as well as us in dealing what we're going to do with the resolution and waiting, because the bank owns the title. And so we don't. So, I mean, those are the things that I'm looking at. And again, I'm looking at what's best for, and I know you all want, and this is me speaking right now. I'm not speaking for the rest of the board. I'm looking at trying to get a resolution for us and trying to avoid a lot of liability for us, not only for this project, but getting the project done, but also thinking long terms and how to get us out of it. Well, I'm saying, I'm not, hey, I heard that comment, and it's a legitimate comment. What I'm saying is, the term for lawyers is mitigation of damages. What's the best way, if this is going to go bad, what's the best way we can put the village in a better position to get to that? So I just wanted to be clear with that. I know it's, hey.
No, well, they can't table you can't, no, because they okay. So let's, any other questions?
No, that's
okay, fine. Okay, great. So,
I think Kathy, yes, so one of the things, Rez, that you said, like, September 15th, if that doesn't happen, we probably will not, continue to work on this. And I think that's what's so frustrating, is that we, just a couple of weeks ago, had an August 2nd permit deadline where stop work was supposed to happen, and it didn't, because we gave them leeway, right? Like, we keep giving them leeway, and I think that's what the frustration is as well.
agreed. All right, I know we're in fatigue moment here. Right
I'm
here,
just
but,
going to say,
yep.
not only do we keep giving them leeway, but almost everyone around this table keeps saying, oh, this is the last time. This is the last time. And our predecessors at this table said it too. Some of the residents mentioned names. And you just said a few minutes ago, Kathy, and if you don't clean up the property, we're going to clean it up and you're going to be responsible. Well, that's already happened, and we haven't held them responsible. We No, we didn't. Matt just said tonight,
But
the
wait, wait,
21,000
hang
we're
on,
eating.
Hang on.
Katie,
hang on,
we
hang on,
don't need to
hang on.
argue it. We
So-
will lean the
Excuse me,
property.
I'd like to correct your, wait.
Right, agreed.
Wait, Lance, we went to adjudication. We find them. There's a current matter in the circuit court disputing that matter, correct?
Okay.
In regards to the fine,
In regards to the
Correct.
fines.
No, I just wanted to,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just wanted to
The fine
make
issue
sure
is
Yeah,
not
go ahead.
resolved.
Answer
that
it.
the village.
Yeah.
We have held them accountable, and now they're using their legal remedies to dispute that fine. So that's not off the table, Katie. So,
This is in regard to the 21K?
no, this is the
With
36,000.
the 36.
Okay, and then
But tonight, what we're voting on is to let him go with the 36,000. I mean, this is small potatoes compared to the big agreement, but it has to do with the integrity and the reliability and the trustworthiness and us continuing to
Agreed.
kick that football that Lucy keeps pulling away.
Right, I agree. All right, yeah. You told me you weren't going to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and take the vote on this motion, please, clerk.
Trustee Bachner.
No.
Trustee Gillis.
Yes.
Trustee
Come on, guys,
Vasquez.
it's not, you said you wanted to be pleasant. Oh, she said yes. Sorry.
Trustee Vasquez.
For the reasons I stated before, yes.
Trustee Brennan.
No.
Trustee Johnson.
The same reasons as Rez, yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
All right, so it passes, and we will talk to you. Can I get a, can we adjourn, or do we have any other business? Okay, no executive session, so if I can get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And
All right.
Quiet, please.
Yeah, come on. I know you all leaving, and please, if you don't mind, leave quietly so we can finish our business.
Trustee Brennan.
For adjournment?
Adjournment.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell.
Yes.
Trustee Bachner.
Yes.
Trustee Gillis.
yes.
Trustee Vasquez.
Yes.
President Aducey.
Yes,
Meeting adjourned.
all right. Thank you, guys.